this better, or is it better if I just talk?
Microphone?
Voice.
Microphone. Okay, cool. So, in honour of Christmas and this little scrounger, I'm going to talk to you a bit about media and marketing in terms of what you can expect more of next year. And unfortunately, I think the first thing we can expect more of is economic malaise. So global GDP is on track to hit around 3.2% this year, and the IMF is projecting about 3.1% for 2026. So we're likely to get the same low growth story across the UK and Europe, and perhaps more importantly, the same lowish growth story across the US and China. Of course, the AI bubble may burst and make things a lot more difficult for everyone, or it might not. The Federal Reserve was warning about irrational exuberance over tech stocks in December 1996, and the market kept chuntering up until early 2000, so you never can time these things. But even if we manage to avoid a crash or a recession, there's still plenty to think about in terms of how you navigate a sluggish economy. The average UK household now has around £254 of disposable income each week. If it had kept up with inflation since 2021, it'd be about 308, but it hasn't. So if you're marketing a discretionary purchase, this is the pie you're fighting for a slice of. Which means that one of the first questions you should probably ask of a brand in 2026 is realistically whether they can expect to grow at all, because not all of them will. The other thing you should probably do is widen your competitive set. Because when money's tight, you're not just competing against category rivals, you're competing against a Netflix subscription, a night out with friends, and every other little treat. And that can change where you show up and how. Another thing to think about as incomes stagnate is status compression. So the UK national living wage rose to £12.21 this year, and that's a 26% real terms increase since 2011, which is fantastic, but at the same time, the median salary in the UK has barely budged in that same period. So add in things like student loans and other costs, and we're arriving at a situation where there's not much difference between the spending power of someone in a graduate role and someone on minimum wage. So what does it mean when higher status jobs no longer provide an income to match? Does it change how you segment audiences? Does it mean that people will look for new, more economical ways to signal their status? I don't know, but these are great questions to ask in 2026, and I can say that without ego because I nicked them from Craft Media's Greg Newman. Thanks, Greg. The silver lining to all this is that brands appear to be adjusting to the uncertainty. We had a round-table discussion with people from all over the industry a couple of weeks ago, and a CMO at a large drinks brand told us that she was quite optimistic about next year because, as she put it, at least now we have a diagnosis. And that means brands can act in accordance with that, rather than just sitting around paralysed and confused like they did for much of this year. And as it turns out, she's not the only one to have this optimism. So these are charts by the IMF, and the top one shows global uncertainty. And as you can see, it's gone batshit. But the one underneath, that shows the general market sentiment, and it's not doing too badly. So things might not be getting better, but businesses do appear to be getting a bit better at dealing with things. Right, my next more brand building. So that same marketer that I was just telling you about also said that she wanted to bring back storytelling in 2026 after investing a bit too much in performance marketing. And again, she doesn't appear to be alone. When ISBA polled marketers from around the world, it found that 37% of UK CMOs said they wanted to increase brand building next year. And while you should always take claim data like that with a really, really big pinch of salt, there is at least one reason to suspect that they may follow through on their good intentions, which is that performance marketing hasn't really been performing like it did pre-pandemic. earlier this year, a measurement company called House conducted an analysis of 640 meta case studies. And what they found was that in 58% of cases, the brand saw a higher incremental uplift when it handled its own targeting and placement, rather than just letting Meta's Advantage Plus AI do it. And the theory that they had for this was that Meta's algorithm has got a little bit too clever for its own good. So it was basically identifying too many people who were already likely to purchase at the expense of bringing new customers into the funnel. And Les Binet found something similar when he looked at IPA case study data, finding that while the average ROI of a campaign had increased 4% since COVID, the average net profit generated by a campaign had declined 11%, meaning that while campaigns have got more efficient, they've also got less effective. Binet's remedy for this is for brands to go big or go home and invest in creativity at scale. And it's a lovely idea, but it might be a touch unrealistic. As one guest at our roundtable reminded us, there is just no world in which, given the current business uncertainty, people are going to go, I'll just write a bigger check. So manage your expectations, but a bit more brand building is on the cards for next year, and I think that's a good thing. Right, our next more. So just because we're going to see more brand building potentially, it doesn't mean we're going to see more brands investing in legacy media. CMOs are still all in on social media and influencers. And next year is going to be interesting because influencers have reached a stage of maturity, not emotional maturity obviously, but reached a stage of maturity where brands are starting to expect a bit more accountability from them. So they'll be measuring their effectiveness more with things like brand uplift studies and media marketing mix modeling. No, marketing mix modeling. You know what I mean. But if you can't be bothered to do your own research, then I have a date for your diary. At the beginning of the year, CEO Fernando Fernandez said that Unilever was going to spend 20 times more on influencers than it was doing already. And the 4th of February is Unilever's next earnings call. So tune in, see how much they say about influencers, and then judge. You can draw your own conclusions about their effectiveness from that. Okay. Right, our final more confidence and more collaboration. So, despite all the volatility this year, it does feel like agencies and media owners have got a little bit of their old confidence back. One agency CEO at our roundtable told us it felt like coming out of a period of marketing McCarthyism, where people were too scared to question platforms and ad tech for fear that they look old-fashioned. But not anymore. And if I had to guess, I'd say it's because the diminishing effectiveness of performance marketing had broken the platform's aura of invincibility, even if it's done nothing to loosen their grip on marketing budgets. But I think another thing helped, which is that in 2020, the value of professionally produced mass entertainment became a bit more apparent. There was loads of great TV, and the Celebrity Traitors showed that it is still possible to build a multi-generational audience. Barb's data tracking TV set viewing of YouTube showed just how much of it was driven by non-creator stuff. And we've heard from sources that luxury brands especially are asking for the ability to buy CTV ads against specific shows, indicating that they haven't forgotten the value of culture-making content. And all this has worked to give the industry a little bit of its old swagger back, but only a little bit. Things are still tough out there with economic instability and technological change working together to make things difficult. So the answer for the industry might be to do the same and work together. And I don't just mean, consolidation like with IPG and Omnicom, although I'm sure we'll see more things of that next year too. But also rivals, competitors working together for the greater good, by creating measurement systems like the broadcasters are doing with Lantern, or investing in research, or supporting platforms that invest in content rather than just host it. And as one member of our roundtable so eloquently put it, we've spent so much time as an industry arguing with each other, and now we know that our future is dependent on us collaborating. If we stick together, we have a powerful case. And that's a rather sentimental note to end on, but it is nearly Christmas, so thank you.